Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the Contagious Culture Podcast. Me and Dan were behind stage having a good time. So we are so excited that you are with us, watching us, and engaging with us. Look, on this podcast, our goal is to help organizations and help you create ecosystems of change where people can thrive. Our overall goal of this conference is to spread, or of this podcast is to spread contagious culture, to equip you, to educate you, and to provide you with the tools to be able to apply, make those necessary connections so that you could be able to grow your organization, improve your impact, and be able to scale the calling that has been put on your life. So today we are coming off two amazing events that we've been able to attend. Recently, one was a brunch or a breakfast, a fundraising breakfast. And then the other one was a luncheon, both featuring nonprofit organizations. And we're really going to talk about events. This is one of obviously the tactics that nonprofits use all the time. There's a lot of controversy around events because there's people out there that say don't do events. There's other ways to be able to get in front of your donors, make an impact. But I still think being able to do events well and doing them well is probably the best way to be able to get people to give. Because look, we went to a phenomenal event today, and I was ready to open my checkbook, literally and physically, literally and figuratively. So let's get into it, Dan. What do you think about the event that we went to today? What are some maybe differences between both of the events, and in your experience, especially at the higher education level? What are some of the key characteristics that you feel make events positive so that they can be able to reach the goals and reach the people?
Good question, Kyle. The first thing is, and I want to state this because I think this is really important, events have their place, right? I don't think they should be the only piece that you're using to fundraise, but events certainly have their place. We both know that. Engagement events are really the most successful events because there's a lot less pressure and you don't have to figure out how to work in the kind of fundraising piece from it.
And what do you mean by engagement events?
The events where it's not expected for people to give money. The events where it's meant to steward people, to show them a great time, to tell them about your work, but not have an actual active ask for support in the event. And I think it's really important to note that your event does not need to be spectacular. It doesn't. It's very easy, or it's very tough to create a spectacular event. It's not that hard to put together a good event. Not everyone needs spectacular. Many nonprofits that don't even know where the funding comes from or how to do certain things. You don't need to do a spectacular event and spend all this money on it. You need to make a clean event that clearly communicates your mission, that allows the people you serve to speak at that event so people understand the population that their gifts would be serving and who the nonprofit serves. And then you need to make it easy to give, right? If that's the point of the event. But it does not need to be spectacular. It needs to be clean, right? Clean in the sense of just being to the expectations of people are comfortable, the food is fine, food is good, and there's clarity in everything that the nonprofit's doing to run that event.
One of the questions that I think about when I hear you say that is how. And that's coming off an event today. We went to a luncheon and there was a woman that spoke, phenomenal speech, and she continued to require the audience to say how. And we would repeat the word how back to her. And phenomenal experience, because I believe that all of the necessary pieces and little elements of that event led to people knowing what actions to take after the event, which I absolutely loved. So I guess my question for you is how do I approach these events? When I think about the event from today, when we walked in, it was super clear and concise on like where we sit. There was somebody there ready to be able to help us understand where we're sitting. It was clear and concise in how much time we had to stop talking and sit ourselves down, because there was a timer at the bottom right of the screen. And when the timer ran out, it was someone or a voice introducing the actual speaker, which was really cool. And it was like the run of show today was phenomenal, because even after the speaker, a video went up. And one of the things that we talk about a lot in the Growth Alliance is like people give to people. They don't give the programs, they don't give the organizations, right? So I love how this specific event followed one person, and their before, their during, and their after throughout the whole engagement. So it would go video and then someone speaking, and then video and then someone speaking, and then video and then someone speaking, and then being able to, just bring it all together at the end, where that person, Alexis, shout out to you, actually got on stage and spoke about her experience, about what this meant. And then she called up the other people that graduated from this program to come to the stage, and she invited them to be able to walk up with her, and then completed her speech while they were still behind her, so that you can have those elements that you can identify with. Like, I just thought it was just so well, like just so well done, just so like executed well. When you think of all of those things from events that you've been to, kind of going back to the initial question before I gave this soliloquy, how do we approach events so that I or you or someone else can have the same experience that we had today?
Kyle, I think the most interesting thing about that event was in the events we've done and all the events I've done, they always want to bring up more people, right? Because you want to see the impact. I don't think that's a bad thing, but I have to say, as I reflect on exactly what you just said, I'm going to speak it into the mic. I love that they followed one person's journey, but then they intentionally brought everyone else up on the stage to recognize them, but they didn't let them speak, right? And that was nothing against them, but it allowed her to speak for them with the experience that she had. And I loved that. I it kept it so much more consistent, right? It's tough to follow if you got a bunch of people talking about their different experiences, but they had one person speaking about multiple different experiences of their own that only they can speak to. And then they brought up the other people to show kind of the proof of concept, right? That works for them. I love that. I just want to say, I think that's really great. And yeah, I forgot the other question you asked, but I had been holding that in while you were talking that whole time, because I hadn't thought about that. I love that they did that. They stayed with one person on their journey at multiple different points and then brought everyone up, but they didn't confuse you with more than one story. You were able to stay on. It was Alexis, right? Right, that was her name, Alexis. Yeah,
Alexis.
they stayed on Alexis the whole time. Shout out Alexis. Like, that was really special.
Yeah, I think there was another element towards the end of the program where there was kind of like this compilation of photos where these men were holding up kind of like how they were seen essentially before the program, and it was really just one word on the like kind of the piece of paper that they had. Some of those words like lost and alone and abuse, like all of these different things. And then it showed like, but with this nonprofit, but then after we then feel this, or we are this, or these are the ways that you identify with us. And I think it's so powerful because it showed the journey of recovery. It showed the journey of transformation. It showed the before and after. So look, anybody listening, what is your before and after? Are you communicating it? Are you allowing donors to have an opportunity to follow that one individual throughout the whole plan? What are we doing in regards to, from an organizational standpoint, to tell the story of one, right? You don't need stories of multiple people. You don't need stories of all of these different things. You need to capture one that you really did well, that can speak on behalf of all of the different impact that you have as an organization. And I just thought it was just so well done to be able to have this one story of this woman, Alexis, and then all of these touch points throughout the event of various people and contributors that have contributed to this woman's journey. And one of the things that I loved is that they didn't just have the CEO and the CFO and the board members speak. It was people that were actually on the ground doing the work. And I think a lot of these events can feel scripted because you only have leaders speaking rather than the actual people on the ground that are making the difference. So this is your call. This is your call to go identify first, who are your before and after stories? Then number two, who are the people that contributed to these people's journey of transformation? Then number three, what is the after? What does that look like for them? And then where are they now? And I think if we can get to a point where we're knowing these things, we're communicating them, we're sharing them, and then we're inviting people in with us to be able to create this type of change and to create this type of transformation again, man, I think those are the areas, those are the times that really allow us to make a difference as organizations. So look, Dan, where do people start? You've done a lot of events. Like, where do people begin if they're approaching an event, if they're wanting to have a fundraising breakfast or a luncheon or something of this to be able to engage people? Where do we start?
I think the first thing is return on time. Shout out to my philosophical mentor, Charles. Return on time. If you're thinking about doing an event, are you going to get the return on the time you're spending on this event? You should be putting in a few months into building this event. Are you going to realistically raise the amount of money at that event that's going to benefit you? Or could you use those 2 to 4+ months to be writing grant applications, to be working on funding, having donor conversations? Is that the piece of it? Because remember, I mentioned there's a difference between an engagement event and a fundraising event. Engagement event, you're not necessarily worrying about that as much. Fundraising event, that should be your first priority. What is the return on time? So you really need to identify, is this event really going to make an impact for us? Is this going to move us one step forward? Are we going to be able to take our board members, to take our strong donors, to take our advocates and ask them to bring people with them who will support our mission at our nonprofit? If the answer is yes, and you have people who are willing to do that, that event will most likely be relatively successful. That's the first part. The second part is, if you're going to do an event, you got to connect it to the mission. You got to find a way to connect it to the community if you want the community to come. And then you need to figure out, and it's going to sound funny to people, you got to build out the framework for that event before you even start planning that event. Because you need to understand, why are people coming to this event? How are we going to engage people at this event? What does this event need? And you need to have that framework first, because you could build that out and then be like, you know what? We don't really know how this connects to the mission. We don't know if we're going to pull this off. We don't know those things. But if you don't build that out first and kind of create that document, whether with your board, with your employees, whatever, that's a crucial step that a lot of people do not proactively do. So those are the first two things that I would do, Kyle, like that really need to be looked into before you even consider planning a true event and launching it internally.
During the event, there was a time right before we began actually eating, or actually after we finished eating the lunch, and I went up to one of their employees, I'm guessing one of their team members for the organization, and I said, like, who is the person that led this? You know, after I introduced myself to that person, I said, like, who is the person that led this? This event is like just phenomenal. Like, I love this experience. And she introduced me to the actual person that ran the event. I was like, you know, we're planning this conference. We're wanting to really think about how and what is the philosophy on how you curated this experience. what are the things that you did? How did you brainstorm and all of these different things? Because
Mm.
what I don't ever want, which I think that I've seen at events that I've attended in the past, is that I feel like the events that I go to, it's like I'm an experiment where I don't, your event shouldn't be like an experiment. It should feel
Yeah.
like an experience.
Yeah.
So I spoke with her, and one of the things that she mentioned, shout out to Christy, is that you have to keep not the end in mind, but the person in mind, like the
Mhm.
person that are there, that is coming to your event. And
Mhm.
when you think about that person and keeping them in mind, what actions do you want them to take? And how can I be able to create all of these micro moments so that they can be able to accomplish that specific action at the end of the event? So
Yeah.
I mentioned that to ask you,
Mhm.
who are the key players when you start planning an event? How do you build the key contributors so
Mm.
that's something that can actually be successful?
Has to be intentional. Has to be intentionality. And I think that kind of plays into, and this plays into some of the other things that is going to connect this together. When you're thinking about who you need there, right? When I talked about that in the last answer for the question that you asked me, I talked about, can your board members get people in the room? Can your employees get the right people in the room? What's a great way to jumpstart that is work with those board members, work with those employees to say, hey, who's doing great things in the community? Who's going to connect with this mission? We need to get them involved on our event committee. Because if those are the type of people we want there, we need those types of people helping us guide this event so that people like them will want to attend and will see the same value that they see. So, Kai, I'll tell you, in the last 2 years, volunteerism has become huge in my mind in terms of the return on investment. Essentially, I don't even, that was the first word that came into mind, but like, the volunteers has been a huge focus for me. It never was before. It really wasn't. And that may have been the athletic mindset that I had. With in athletics, that was not always the case. But I've really started to look at it way more intentionally and be like, any ways you can find volunteers to get involved that you want to be involved, whether they're donors or not, they're going to get that insight. They're going to meet the people. They're just going to get an inside view. And if you get them bought in, they're going to get other people bought in because they're going to be excited.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, because as I think about volunteers, there were many moments at both of these events where people were walking around kind of just checking on people. Or at both events that we are mentioning in this episode, there were table leaders essentially as well, and people that were connected to the organization in a deeper and an intentional way. And as I think about volunteerism and then table leaders, I propose people that can just walk around at your event to check on people, to say, hey, is everything okay? Hey, do you need anything? And then just creating this condition where people are warm, where people are feeling like supported, where people are feeling empowered in a sense, or just seen or loved. So, what is one micro moment or action that anyone can take as they're thinking about planning their event that would be able to create an enhanced experience?
I just wanted people to sit with it for a second. It's the entry. That is the thing I focus on the hardest. When people come to your event, you need to start every moment of that event. The first moment is going to start off their experience. So if they're trying to think about where is it, it's the moment people, whether they come up to the door to check in, whether they get direction on where to sit, or it's going through the doors into the event space. It is that first piece that they need to welcome you. And a lot of places do it good, but I think there's an opportunity for people to engage more, right? Like, I think of, if you have 150 people coming to an event, you should really have 4 people ready with lists. So when people walk in, they don't have to wait behind someone else. They can go to their own person and they can say, And the person with the list can be like, hey, welcome to the event. I'm here to help you figure out where to sit. If you have any questions, and then maybe give them an entry thing, something just to start that off so warm. To me, most important. People don't do that. We talked about at the events, the luncheon we were at, they had signs everywhere, right? And we love that. Directional signs are so important because so many places miss that detail. Because you got to know where to go. There's nothing worse than you hit traffic, you're coming in late, you're coming in close to the time, and you're like, where do I go? Like if I'm going to a country club and there's no sign outside that tells me where to go, immediately I'm like, well, where do I go? Like I'm just finding my way out, but there aren't a lot. There are not a lot of people who will intuitively just have the confidence to be like, oh, I'm just going to go this way. There's a lot of people that are going to second guess that. They're going to immediately be like, oh man, I don't know. And there's some people that might leave. Let's be honest. There could be one or two people that might just leave and be like, I don't know where to go. Like, I don't have time for this. So I think it's that entryway that people forget about. It has to be so intentional, so warm, and so inviting.
No, I agree. And as you enter, it sets the stage and creates the condition for people to actually enjoy the experience. Look, anybody listening right now, I want you to think about something. What does your entry look like? The entry not only to your event, but your organization. What does your experience look like? And not just the experience at your event, the experience that people are having with engaging with your organization. What is your education or bandwidth from your team? And not just as to plan the event, but within your actual organization. And look, if you want to look beyond your organization and beyond events, then you need the Growth Alliance. This is a 12-week accelerator course that's going to help educate you, provide you the steps to apply, and connect you with the right donors that you need to be able to fast track and accelerate your fundraising as well as nonprofit experience. Look, one of the questions that we always ask is, what type of culture are you spreading? Culture is it's in everything. And the culture you bring is the culture you create. The energy you bring is the energy you create. So make your energy, go make your culture, go make what it is that you're doing worth catching. And we'll see you guys next time.